It's going to be interesting to see on some of these other big cases, voting rights, transgender sports, how she's going to go her way.
I love that you're able to provide that context. We love that you're a Supreme Court nerd, Jan, because we benefit from it.
I get along with everybody but your husband.
Don't send your kids out to punish them anywhere. Back in the day we had boot camp. Either send your child to a mental facility that's run by a proper hospital. Even that's going to be a little shady. But do something that's more controlled. The kids have been tortured in those places. Kids have been in those places. Kids have been traumatized in those places. And we're just going to have to keep fighting. Today, going to be reacting to Supreme Court Justice signals strong disagreement in Colorado conversion therapy case ruling. Gay conversion therapy, trans conversion therapy, queer conversion, whatever they're trying to convert you from that they can't do. Long, dark history in this country of scams. I have no respect for
CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman has more from right here in the CBS Broadcast Center. So we've been talking about this is 8-1, right? So there was one dissent that came from Justice Jackson. Can you break down for us why?
That's right. And I want to reiterate everything that Jessica and Jan said, but it is very interesting to look at this split. And just to explain it a little bit, the core issue here was, is this First Amendment right? This speech that goes on during these talk therapy sessions about conversion therapy, or was this Colorado law banning the discussion of conversion therapy, regulating professional conduct?
What did they rule?
Now, 8 of the justices decided that this was viewpoint discrimination, that this was a violation of the First Amendment, as you were just talking about with Jessica. But Justice Jackson feels otherwise. She says that the majority is failing to appreciate the crucial context of this. She said that no one disputes that conversion therapy is harmful, and she talks in this dissent about how no one also disputes that Colorado has the power to regulate medical treatment. So her whole issue here is that conversion therapy is harmful, and she clearly views it as a regulation of a medical treatment, as opposed to this First Amendment view that the rest of the court took here.
Please. All right, Katrina, really appreciate that. We want to stay on this piece about dissent. I want to go back to Jan Crawford. Jan, you've been listening to Justice Jackson. She's actually speaking right now, I think, about the dissent. Can you give a little bit more color on what you're hearing?
Yeah, we're hearing from our colleague Melissa Quinn, who is at the Supreme Court right now to get this decision, that Justice Jackson is summarizing her dissent from the bench, and that is extremely unusual. Rarely do justices summarize their dissents from the bench.
Well, if it's about
it has to be typically a much more significant case than this one, and one where there is much sharper divide. So for a justice to summarize their dissent from the bench shows that she obviously, as Katrina signaled, has a strong disagreement. And going through her dissent right now, she's using words like catastrophic to describe what impact it could have, not only on therapy sittings, but the entire medical profession, and how it will jeopardize states' ability to actually regulate the practice of medicine. Obviously, 8 of her colleagues disagreed with her. And why I think this is interesting is not as much kind of the content of this decision, but it shows the path that Justice Jackson is setting out for herself on the Supreme Court. She is signaling that she is willing to be a solo voice, perhaps the most liberal justice. And whenever she has any disagreement with her liberal colleagues, she's going to speak out about it. That's why we see her take up so much time during the oral arguments with questions. She is the most, as the junior justice, active questioner on that bench. She also is the justice who writes the most frequently when she has disagreement with her liberal colleagues. So again, today, I think it's just something interesting for us kind of Supreme Court nerds to follow.
So yeah, sorry, they were confusing me because the way that they were putting it, they kind of made it sound like she was dissenting against a case to get rid of conversion therapy. That's not the case. I think that she was basically saying, not bringing this here. There's a lot that's going on. I don't think that we can trust the system at the moment. What I looked into sounded very strategic.
Having her summarize that dissent from the bench is very unusual in a case like this, and signals, I think, Justice Jackson, if we didn't know it already before, is a justice that is going to go her own way and really not care about as much about some of the court's traditions and kind of collegiality that perhaps some of her other colleagues may.
Fascinating detail, Jan. And as you told us earlier, they are not striking down Colorado's conversion therapy ban necessarily.
They should. It's
on the grounds of the First Amendment. So it has nothing to do really with the content of this therapy ban, and more on just the concept itself of the First Amendment. Why do you think it's so important for Ketanji Brown Jackson, Justice Jackson, to be the lone dissent, to avoid a 9-0 decision? And if she's teeing up something next, what might that be?
You know, that's a great question, Errol, because, you know, again, what I think is the language is pretty fiery in her dissent, but that's typical of all of her dissents. I mean, she often is the solo dissenter because she does use kind of this incendiary language to signal her disagreements. So that's not unusual. She's also worried about the impact of the medical profession. Like I said, again, that's not surprising. She signaled that at oral argument. So I think it could be signaling to your bigger question what we can expect in these cases ahead, which are much more significant. Obviously, this is an important case. It'll affect a lot of people. There are 25 other states that have similar laws that won't be able to apply them now as broadly as perhaps Colorado may have wanted to. It's not striking them down, but it will limit how they can use them. But it's going to be interesting to see on some of these other big cases, voting rights, transgender sports, how she's going to go her way.
I love that you're able to provide that context. We love that you're a Supreme Court nerd, Jan, because we benefit from it. You mentioned some of the cases ahead. I do, before you go, if you could just quickly preview what we're expecting tomorrow. We're going to hear arguments.
Make sure that you do not send your kids out to go do something. Just don't send your kids out to punish them anywhere. Back in the day, we had boot camp. Either send your child to a mental facility that's run by a proper hospital. Even that's going to be a little shady, but do something that's more controlled. The kids have been tortured in those places. Kids have been in those places. Kids have been traumatized in those places, and we're just going to have to keep fighting until we're able to get this action put in place. I'm not sure exactly how the ending of conversion therapy works, but I'm here as a voice to amplify what I can. I hope you have a nice day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.